Hi guys. So I went to edit this video and realized I can't find my intro clip. So I'm going to explain this vlog and the series of vlogs that I'm going to do. It's very late at night and I'm very, very tired, but we're going to try this anyway. So this video is the first video in a series of vlogs that's going to be running through October, where I am going to be reading some paranormal romance, October-ish themed, spooky-like stories. Well, I suppose not all, very few of them are actually spooky, but they've got October vibes, right? So things like shifters and witches and vampires, angels and demons. I'm planning on doing themed reading vlogs for the month of October, so you'll get one every week. Starting with this one, which is my shifter romance reading vlog, in which I'm going to look at what I have on my Kindle, things that I already own as physical books, and decide on a handful of books to read. Now, I will probably have a short list that is longer than what I'm actually going to read. I'm going to aim for somewhere between 3 and 5 books, depending on the length of the books, and each week you're going to get one video. I'm not quite sure exactly at this point what order the videos are coming out in, except for this one, which is the first one. And yeah, I'm going to jump straight into the footage that I filmed. So I'm sorry that I lost the original intro and that I am having to backfill because I don't know what happened. At one point I was filming multiple vlogs at the same time and I think it just, all the footage got mixed up. So that was very bad vlogging of me, but live and learn. Okay, so here are my options for my changeling / shifter romances. And I think I'm just going to start with the shortest one today. And that is Totally Sparked by Zoey, Indiana. And it's part of the Shifter Speed Dating series, which I think I've read a couple of books of from that series. So yeah, I'll check in once I've read the book. So clearly I need to look at covers more closely because that was a platypus shifter romance, which is hilarious. A couple of the Australian references I'm a bit iffy on, but overall that was kind of funny. So it is a single POV story told from the hero's perspective. He is a platypus shifter. He's also an electrician by trade. And on the 4th of July holiday, he gets called in despite the fact that he is on holiday by a friend asking for some help. And there he meets his fated mate, who is a human woman who tries to claim him. And he doesn't really believe in fated mates because of things that have gone on in his life. So there's some moments where he's just trying to let her down gently, but then her life is in danger. And so he takes her back to his apartment to keep her safe, and it goes from there. There is some platypus family drama, but yeah, it was short, it was sweet, and just entertaining. The Shifter Speed Dating series is just for when you want something really short and a little bit steamy and just a bit quirky. That was probably a good start to this reading vlog. I am going to read the next of the shifter books. This is Inferno by Vaughn. It is book 1 in the Smoky Falls Wool series. And from what I gather, based on reading the synopsis while I was doing my notes, there is a female werewolf. She's out camping with her friends and they happen to be in the same area as some unmated males. And I have a feeling that she ends up mated to the alpha, potentially. We're going to read and find out. This one is about 150 pages long. So I just finished Inferno, which is the Vaughn book, and it was fun. Pretty well written. There's a bit of a girl gang as the girls are out camping, and Juliet and Roman are fairly evenly matched in terms of being dominant characters, and Juliet is not really willing to play the submissive role with Roman. There's a little bit of pack fighting because the wolves are there for a mating gathering of various wolf packs, so that obviously causes some friction, and also one of Juliet's friends falls for one of Roman's friends, so there's another human wolf mating. So yeah, it was fun and enjoyable, and you know, now I've read another author I haven't tried before. So I will check in when I have my next shifter romance book to read. What I have realized is my grand plans for reading lots and lots of shifter romances for this vlog is not going to work, because I also have 3 other vlogs that I want to try and do, and I am rapidly finding myself running out of time because I had grand plans of, you know, bulk pre-filming in September, and that's not turning out the way that I want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 3 books for every video. So I went back through my shifter list, and I think the one that I'm going to go with is The Werewolf Nanny by Amanda Milo, who I have read a couple of books by and would really like to read some more. So I think I'm going to go with that. I have the audio for it, which means I can just pop it on in the background, which is great for me. So yeah, that's going to be the next book for this shifter vlog. And then I'm going to try and do 3 books for every other reading vlog as well, which I think, to be honest, is a good number. I am 14 chapters into the Werewolf Nanny. Yes, the Werewolf Nanny. And I'm listening to the audiobook for it, so it's just been one of those books that I've had on the go. And it is about a woman who works at a werewolf bar, and she is raising 2 children and basically raising one of her children's best friends, who is obviously coming from some kind of abusive household. So we've only just sort of started to get hints at what is going on there. Because she's working so many hours and her last babysitter has quit, and so her boss, who is an elf or werewolf, basically sends one of his submissive wolves to take care of her kids. And he just struggles with everything because he is a very, very submissive wolf, but he's determined to protect the kids. So far, I have kind of mixed feelings about this. Like, I'm intrigued enough to keep going, but there's also some, I don't know what it is about it. There's some things that that don't sit quite right with me. At the moment, the story is going in the direction of the mother and the boss, but I know that that's not what happens. So I don't know whether it's a love triangle or if it's just written that way. I'm also not loving the narrator, but I'm not hating it enough to quit the audiobook and go back to the ebook. So there is that. I will update you guys when I have read some more. I've got about 3.5 hours left. So I was tidying up my plants and bits and pieces today, which I forgot to get the camera out and film that, but I'll show you what it looks like in a minute. So this is my plant corner, and normally there are plants everywhere all along here because I had heaps of cuttings and things like that. Anyway, today I spent all day tidying up all of the plants. I've put a couple outside. I've moved a couple around in various other places. Sorry, that's my foot in the corner. And I have cleared all of this space. So now it is a little bit cleaner, a little bit tidier. I also got this grey rug, which I just put in the corner because water was dripping on the floor, and I've destroyed my floating floorboards with water, so like there's no saving them, but we're just going to prevent future issues. I'm happy. It looks very nice. I don't know what else to say about that. But while I was doing that, I was listening to the audio for the Werewolf Nanny, and this is a really interesting book. I don't know quite how I feel about it, and I can't remember what I said previously. Like the sense of I'm not quite sure is still going strong. And I was having a chat with Bree earlier because someone had said to her that this was a Christian romance, and from what I can gather, it's not a Christian romance in terms of the North American definition of the subgenre of Christian romance, where I have to sort of split this between the literal meaning of a Christian romance, which is a romance with Christian undertones in it, which this book definitely has, and a Christian romance, which is very faith-based, non-steamy romance kind of romance books, right? And part of me is reflecting on the fact that I think in some ways Australians do not have the same relationship with religion like the US. Like there's still hang-ups and whatnot. I won't say that there aren't, but for the most part, that's not a huge thing over here, possibly because we are such a melting pot of cultures that everyone has their hang-ups, but it no longer feels like we are predominantly Christian dominated. Whether that's true or not, that's just the general feel that I get, or maybe that's just my experience. I was raised Catholic and I spent a lot of time going to church and whatnot, and I'm not practicing or anything, and my family is definitely not overly religious in any sense of the word. But yeah, like it's made for some interesting things, and I think what I've reflected on, because the story itself, there is Susan, who is the heroine, there is her boss, Finn, and then there is Lucan, who is the werewolf nanny and is the love interest. We spend a lot of time with Susan and Finn initially, and so that sort of muddies the water in picking up who the hero is, but it's definitely Lucan. And he is a submissive werewolf. He is taking care of Susan's 2 kids and the girl who is one of her Susan's children's best friend. That's all fine. Like that's what I was reading yesterday. And then today we're reading the story, and it's getting to the point where one of the characters is revealed to be a future werewolf, and they start spending some time with the pack. And it's revealed that Lucan is a pastor or a preacher of some kind for the pack. Like, he is religious and he leads Bible study. So there is a scene where 2 of the characters who have not previously mentioned anything to do with religion end up going to werewolf church and are part of a Bible study group or something that's going on there. This is where my ramblings on my relationship with religion come into this. I don't care about religion in books. I actually don't. And I don't care about them in romance books, because quite often I will pick up books and I will read them because they are romance books with religious undertones in them, because I have an interesting relationship with religion and I don't mind reading about that because I'm always interested in exploring that as a dynamic and seeing what other people think about it. But that is usually the case when I know about it going into it. And as I was saying to Bree, like to me this just feels weird because it just sort of comes so left of field that I don't know what to think about it. If it had been in the description, like, it wouldn't have bothered me. I think it's just that it's come out of nowhere, that it's thrown me. And so I don't know where it's going. And I don't even know if it's preachy. I don't know. It's just odd. So I'm going to try and finish reading it. I've got about an hour and a half left in the audio. So I want to try and finish it. And then I will make a decision overall. But other than that, I just find the pacing really odd. It is a slow burn. Like, we've barely gotten anywhere in the relationship. And this, I can't remember how long the audiobook is, but I've only got an hour and a half left. Nothing's happened so far. I don't know. So I'm very confused about how I'm feeling about this book at this point in time. Like, it's not bad that I'm going to DNF it, but I'm confused. I finished The Werewolf Nanny last night, and that book is so weird. And I think it's a bit preachy. I think it is, because in the second half of the book, like, it's brought up all the time. The first time that Lucan and Susan, you know, decide to have sex, the first thing he says when she asks to have sex with him is, "Can we get married?" Why is that the first thing that you're asking? And then after that, it's all about their mating ceremony. And in a shifter romance, mating ceremonies, mating bonds, all that sort of stuff, totally fine. It's very wedding-like. It's very wedding-like. And then some of the conversations that happen after that are just, the religious undertones are very interesting. It's very interesting. So I would suggest going into reading this one with that in mind. Like, it's not bad, but it was just very left of field. And the fact that that is not mentioned anywhere before you read the book is just wild. And what's even more wild, that this is a shifter book with knotting and lots of body fluids. It's wild, and I love, like, a submissive hero, and he is very sweet, but the combination of things in this book is just very interesting. So while I did say that that was going to be my last one, I can't leave off on that note because I don't know how I feel. So I remembered I had To Her Rescue by Dria Andersen, which is another shifter romance. This one's only about 185 pages. So I'm going to read that today. And then that's going to be the last shifter book for this vlog because I'm still reeling from finishing The Werewolf Nanny last night. Okay guys, so I finished To Her Rescue by Dria Andersen. I really liked this one. It's probably one of the top 2 books that I read for this vlog. So in this one we have Celine, or Cece, whose grandfather has passed away and has left her his entire inheritance, and he was quite wealthy. And her parents are basically trying to take that money. They're very put out that she has inherited everything, and that's probably because they're awful. And everyone in this world that we meet is a panther shifter. Anyway, so there is a clause within the inheritance that Celine has to be married in order to inherit the money. And so her father sets about, or has decided, that he's going to arrange a marriage for her so that he can get the money from this deal, because whoever she enters into a relationship with will be, you know, it'll be a business deal. And so he will be the benefactor of that money, or so he thinks. Then another family of panther shifters, this one Mason belongs to, is kind of like the equivalent of new money in this world. And he and his family are known as sort of being the outsiders. They've sort of fought their way quite literally to the top. And Mason himself is trying to establish himself as a player alongside his father, and he's doing a great job. And he has always kind of been attracted to Celine, but hasn't really made a move or anything like that. And so when his father tells him that Celine is being married off, he decides that he wants to marry her. And he also realizes that his panther wants hers as a mate. And so that's great. But of course, nothing goes quite smoothly because her family is god-awful. He ends up moving in with her to keep her safe because people are coming and vandalizing her house. They are, you know, calling her constantly to berate and abuse her. They're leaving unwanted gifts at her place. And all she wants to do is marry Mason. She can't believe that, you know, he isn't doing this for anything other than the marriage merger of the two families until he convinces her otherwise. This is short, it's steamy. It's got a hero who is just devoted to the heroine, a heroine who is stronger than she thinks, even if at the start she's quite submissive and is very sort of isolated because of her family's behavior. It was great. I really, really enjoyed it, and I know I have another Dria Andersen for my vampire video, so I'm excited about that. But yes, that sort of brings us to the end of this particular reading vlog, and there will be another one coming up next week. I think it will be my Witches in Romance books reading vlog. Maybe. Today has been pretty busy. Between finishing these books, I've managed to send off packages to Izzy and Heather, and hopefully by the time this video goes up, they might be arriving in the States with a little bit of luck. And I've been grocery shopping. I've actually made myself 2 meals today, and it's, you know, only 2:30, so that's an accomplishment for me. And now I have to go do some filming and some editing and possibly start the next vlog because I seem to have overcommitted myself slightly. What else is new? But of the 4 books that I read for this reading vlog, definitely To Her Rescue by Dria Andersen, and also Totally Sparked by Zoey, Indiana, because that one was just hilarious in that it was a platypus shifter. Like, those 2 are my 2 standouts from this reading vlog. I'm glad that I had a go at all of these books, and I tried a couple of new authors. It's been an experience reading shifter romances outside of my regular comfort authors, but it's been fun. If you've read any of these books, I'd love to chat to you about them down below, so feel free to leave a comment or let me know if you're planning on picking them up in the future. Otherwise, if you want to let me know that you're here but you don't want to leave a comment, feel free to leave a paw print emoji. I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're staying safe and healthy, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, everyone.